going on, guys? It's Gia here representing Gia's World. This is about to be a very long video. This is my reflection to the 2016 presidential election. As you all know, or if you don't know, Donald J. Trump was elected to be the president in the 2016 election. I have a lot of different emotions and feelings about this. And this is going to be my time to actually give a reaction and a reflection on the past 10 months, the election, the outcome, where do we go from now, what are going to be our next action steps. First of all, my initial reaction to Donald Trump being elected the president last Tuesday. I was angry, I was upset, I was pissed, I was bitter, I was sad, I was hurt, I was frustrated. And that was where my initial feelings and emotions going through me last Tuesday. First of all, number two, how did we get here? I voted for Bernie Sanders in the Michigan primaries. I am a Bernie Sanders supporter. I phone banked. I canvassed neighborhoods. I registered people to vote. I went to various, rallies and protests supporting Bernie Sanders and his movement to get young people involved in local, state, and federal elections to get us to run for positions. I actually ran to be a precinct delegate in the city of Flint, Michigan, and I am one of the many precinct delegates that was elected to be a precinct delegate in the city of Flint in August of 2016, 3 months ago. I support a progressive liberal agenda. I support social justice, equity, and inclusion for all people. Bernie Sanders was my guy, still is my guy. However, the Democrats basically cheated Bernie Sanders out of the Democratic primaries, and that's something that we have to look at. We're hurt and upset about Donald Trump being elected, but let's look at how we even got here. You had an entire establishment, the Democratic Party, rig an entire primary election to put the person that they wanted as their nominee, being Hillary Clinton, who is an established status quo politician. And many people are sick and tired of status quo establishment politicians. People are tired of the same old, same old. They're tired of the people who basically have a revolving door of political stances. You go from being the first lady to a senator, to secretary of state. It's like you've been doing this for decades. And I'm gonna be honest, I feel like career politicians are why we have such bad issues in the political arena, because it gets to a point where people are more invested on getting reelected and making money for themselves and whatever interest groups or political action committee or corporation that they're serving, not the actual people on Main Street who are electing them to be representation of the people on Main Street. We're supposed to be your constituents, yet when you look at the Democratic Party, when you look at the Republican Party, they are basically self-serving. They're only serving themselves, the corporations, the wealthy, the 1%, and the political action committees that's sponsoring them, okay? And Bernie Sanders' whole message was, we need to get rid of this campaign finance system where basically, it's like watching NASCAR. When you look at these politicians, you need to see Verizon sponsored this person, you know what I mean? Walmart sponsored this person, Goldman Sachs has this person. Like, they're all pretty much shady when you start looking into them. But they did everything they could to sabotage Bernie Sanders, from, leaked emails showing, Hillary Clinton campaign officials saying shady things about Bernie Sanders and his supporters, to her having key people such as Debbie Wasserman Schultz as the Democratic National Convention chair, and then also Donna Brazile, countless others, where you were basically putting folks that were already pro-Hillary who had head positions in the Democratic Party. There is a conflict of interest there that should have never took place. It should have never happened. Number three, we have a lot of voter suppression going on. First of all, a lot of the primaries that we had were closed primaries. if you live in a state with closed primaries, unless you're already previously registered with one of the two major political parties, the Democrats or the Republicans, you're not allowed to vote in the primary unless you have an open primary. Well, Michigan is a closed primary, so a lot of independents couldn't even vote in the primaries at all. That's voter suppression if you ask me. Okay, then we had people basically telling folks, oh, well, Bernie Sanders isn't realistic, he's idealistic, and you young people don't know what you're talking about, and you're childish, and you're babies, and blah, 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 basically discrediting entire population, which, knock, knock, guess you didn't know, the millennials are now the largest voting bloc population in this country. So you can't sit around here calling us babies and crybabies and everything else and completely disrespecting us, saying that we're basement dwellers, etc., and then expect us to support your candidate. It doesn't work that way. Okay? But people couldn't even vote. Voter suppression. Then we had people who were voting and like their ballots were being pushed out by faulty machines. We also had situations where even at the caucuses, oh, well, that's going against the elderly and that's going against Hillary Clinton and blah, blah, blah. It was so much things going on where voter suppression and voter ID laws were everywhere, making it very difficult for independent people who don't have the resources to get an ID or don't have the transportation to get to the voting location or poll location to even vote. Okay? Number 4, knock, knock. A lot of people thought that we lived in a post-racial society. That is the biggest crock of shit that's ever been told. There is nothing post-racial about the United States of America or about this entire world. This is a very much racist, sexist, classist, homophobic, transphobic society. Xenophobic society, okay? I guess this is a news flash because people are in such shock that Donald J. Trump won the presidency. And I'm sitting here like, I'm not really surprised, okay? I mean, when you look at his supporters who were basically being fed what they wanted to be fed. They wanted to hear xenophobic rhetoric. They wanted to hear racist, sexist rhetoric. They wanted to hear homophobic, transphobic rhetoric. And that's exactly what Donald J. Trump gave them, okay? He fed them what they wanted. Okay. Another thing is this man has absolutely no experience in running, any type of local, state, or federal political affiliation. He has no experience in that. He has a bachelor's degree, and he's the president of the United States now. So that right there lets you know, I don't know why people are so surprised at some of these things. Okay. Then we have the media. The media basically led everybody on a wild goose chase. They didn't really have accurate information. They made it seem like Hillary Clinton was going to annihilate Donald Trump and that she was going to win by a landslide victory. Well, guess what? Last Tuesday proved that to be false. In fact, in the state of Michigan, the Detroit Free Press, prematurely announced Michigan going to the Hillary Clinton side when clearly that was not the case. Yet for some reason, the Detroit Free Press announced that Tuesday night, like around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, saying, yeah, Michigan's going to Hillary Clinton. That was prematurely done. And I feel like the entire corporate ran news media prematurely gave these accusations of how Hillary Clinton is going to Trump, and that clearly didn't happen, okay? I don't know what type of exit polls you're doing, but that was not the case. Now, Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote. In fact, they're still counting ballots, and her lead is increasing over Donald J. Trump in the popular vote. However, Donald Trump won the Electoral College. Now, if you recall, history has a way of repeating itself. Back in 2000, with Al Gore and George W. Bush, that was also the case. Al Gore won the popular vote, and George W. Bush won the Electoral College. 16 years later, we're back at it. History repeats itself. Now, a lot of people are saying we need to get rid of the Electoral College. Me personally, I think we should, because the Electoral College, that was fine and dandy, you know, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, you know, 200 plus years ago, when, you know what, we didn't have that many states, we didn't have that large of a population. It actually made sense to do that. But in 2016, 21st century, it's kind of outdated and unneeded. And in many ways, it's undemocratic. Because if we're really promoting a democracy where we, the people, are the voices of the government, then guess what? The popular vote should trump the Electoral College if we're going off the population of the people who are eligible to vote. But we're not. We're going off of a made-up Electoral College that's 200 plus years old. We have some issues that we need to solve and correct. Okay? Now, going back to Donald Trump's bigoted, closed-minded rhetoric that he spewed the entire election process. Now you have millions of people who are dealing with the outlash of these bigoted, closed-minded rhetoric. I mean, if you're a person of color, you're pretty much being told that you're going to be shipped back to whatever country they think you come from. If you are a religious minority, such as a Muslim, or that is your culture, or you're perceived to be Middle Eastern, guess what? People are viewing you as a terrorist, and they're also trying to deport you. If you're perceived to be brown or black, like I said, people of color, and you're perceived to be Hispanic, Latino, you have people trying to deport people back to whatever country they perceive them to be from. Okay? If you're a female, you're a cisgendered female, you're a woman, guess what? They're trying to take away your reproductive rights. They're trying to overturn Roe versus Wade 1973 Supreme Court decision. Okay? If you're a part of the LGBTQI plus community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, queer, asexual, transgender, guess what? With Mike Pence, Donald J. Trump's vice president, who is very anti-LGBTQI+, is trying to implement conversion therapy, electroshock therapy on people who are a part of the LGBTQI+. You know, there's many reasons why marginalized groups, underrepresented groups, people of color, women, LGBTQI+, lower income, you know, the list goes on and on and on. Why so many people around the world and in this country are afraid, and they have valid reasons to be afraid, because a bigot and a closed-minded person was just elected to be the president of the United States of America. People have valid reasons to be afraid at this point. Like, your rights and your very well-being is in danger. Like, right now, you're a target. So a lot of people are flipping out about that, and they have every reason to be. Okay? It's crazy that in this country this is happening, but then on the flip side, is it really crazy? Because history has a funny way of repeating itself. Next thing I have to address is you have people, 49% of the eligible voters did not vote. That means basically nearly half of eligible voter population in the USA did not participate in Tuesday's presidential election, which is probably why Hillary Clinton didn't get the Electoral College, and it's probably why the Democrats lost the House and Senate. Okay, now, granted, it is your right, it is your choice to not vote. That's your right and choice. However, I don't agree with it, and quite frankly, I think you're ignorant and a dumbass, and you're not being held accountable for your actions. And what gets me about some of these people who don't vote, these are the very same people who have a very apathetic way of viewing life in society. They've given up, and they basically think their vote doesn't matter, their life doesn't matter. But then on the flip side, these are the main people who bitch and moan every single day on Facebook, at the beauty shop, at the barber shop, with their friends, with their families. They're always complaining about what they don't have and what they need. But then when it's time to vote, whether that's local, state, or federal, they're nowhere to be found. Those individuals grind my gears. Those individuals make me sick. Those individuals need to shut the hell up, because actions speak louder than words. Nobody wants to hear you bitching and moaning, but then you're not at city council meetings, You're not volunteering in the community. You're not paying it forward. You're not giving back. You're not involved. You don't vote. Therefore, shut up. Nobody wants to hear that mess. And then these are the same people who are on the chopping block right now. Because I know a lot of people who are people of color who didn't vote. A lot of people who are part of the LGBTQI plus community who didn't vote. A lot of women who didn't vote. And now they're sitting up here freaking out because guess what? You have a sexist, homophobic, classist, racist, bigoted, closed-minded individual who was just elected president. Now they don't know if they're going to have rights. And I'm sitting there scratching my head like, well, what in the hell did you think? That's your fault that he got in. Anyways, moving on. Then we have the third-party voters. Once again, it is their right and choice to vote third party. I can't sit up here and be upset with them. I mean, because at the end of the day, when you really sit down and look at who we had on the Democratic side and the Republican side, it was basically shit and feces, the same damn thing. So you literally were basically being told to vote between the lesser of two evils. And quite frankly, people are sick and tired of voting between the lessers of two evils. This also brings into the next argument that I hear from a lot of people, which is why some folks didn't vote and why some folks voted third party. The next argument is, well, they're two heads on the same coin, right? Left wing, right wing, still in the same dirty ass bird. And that has been a major argument in, the past 10 months. It's like, well, the Republicans, the Democrats, they're both status quo. They're both going to push whatever the corporations and the wealthy 1% wants. They're going to leave the people on Main Street like you and me behind. So you can see why some folks didn't even vote. And you can see why some folks voted third party. People are sick and tired of the choices that are being given to them, or being selected for them. Because once again, in the primaries on the Democratic side, we saw the rigging of an entire primary election done. We saw the cheating and the scamming the entire time. In fact, during the primaries, Bill Clinton was basically violating laws. I mean, he was sitting up at election polls, giving handshakes, kissing babies. He's not even supposed to be near the poll stations, but he was doing it, and that's against the law. There was also voter fraud in Nevada during the Democratic primaries between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. So once again, people saw all of this unraveling right before their eyes. So you really can't blame folks who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. You can't. Granted, I don't agree with them, and for some of these people, I see them as being complete jackasses. But at the end of the day, you really can't be too upset about it. I mean, this is our fault. Essentially, this is our fault. Now, we're at the 17.5-minute mark of this video. I told you this video is going to be long. Moving into what I think we need to start looking at. I am still a proud, registered Democrat, but I am also a liberal, a progressive liberal. And I feel like this is the time where we need to break down the Democratic Party, which basically happened last Tuesday when we lost the presidential election and the House and Senate. It's time to reconstruct and reconfigure what it means to be a Democrat. What are our social policies? What are our economic policies? What is our foreign policies? What do we really want for the people? Are we actually representing the people? This is where we need to really sit down and reconfigure what we're doing. Because right now, it's clear the Democratic Party has lost the people, has lost the populace, because people are sick of the Democrats, quite frankly. And I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why. Number one, Democrats always lose. Like, even when we win things, we always end up compromising. And when we compromise with the Republicans, who ends up on the chopping block? You and me end up on the chopping block. You don't believe me? Look at the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act originally was going to be single payer, it was going to be universal health care, and then as we compromise with the Republicans, that all went out the window. We got screwed, okay? Yes, there was like 40 million people, or 25 million people who were able to get health insurance, but then there was another 40 million people who couldn't even afford the so-called Affordable Care Act. So, once again, we end up compromising. Everyday people like you and me get thrown under the bus. Number two, are we really fighting for the people? That's up for debate. Because a lot of times, the people, you and me, get thrown under the bus, and order to maintain status quo, in order to maintain, the sponsorships they're getting from the wealthy and the corporations and the 1%. So one has to wonder, are we really representing our constituents, or are we representing the corporations and the wealthy? Okay? We really need to push to get young folks mobilized and involved. And we need to make sure that young people's voices are truly being heard and taken into consideration. Okay? We need to make sure that they have elected positions, that they are involved, and that they are heard, and that they are the future of the party. We learned in this election that the millennials are the largest voting bloc. It's not about the baby boomers anymore. The baby boomers have had a strong hold on the entire society for 45 plus years. Well, guess what? They're dying out. They're dying. They're leaving Earth. They're leaving the world. They're leaving life. Now it's the millennials and the next generation afterwards. So we need to really start focusing on the voter bloc, which is why, in my opinion, I honestly do see us forgiving student loan debt. I see education K through 16, including college, including bachelor's, and even more, being free, because once again, it's the millennials who have the power. So things that we want and that we need to be the forefront of each political party that's even here. Point blank, period. If you're not addressing your constituents, then you can kiss your elections goodbye. Okay? If your constituents are not involved in the party and they're not the faces of the party, then you can kiss your elections goodbye. We saw it last Tuesday with Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, okay? We need people to get involved. We need to be consistent, and we need to be persistent. We need to be hitting them every single day. Okay, people need to physically see us in the streets, protesting, rallying, attending meetings, working on legislation and policy, connecting with youth. I said youth, I'm not just talking about 18 and older, I'm talking about middle school, high school, okay? We need to be there for them. Their voices need to be brought to the table. They need to be involved. They need to be included. If we're really fighting for social justice, equity, and inclusion, everyone has to be a part of at the table, and not only at the table, but actually eating with us. Okay? Because I'm getting so sick and tired of this illusion of inclusion, basically, where we tell you, hey, you're involved, but really you're not, because we don't want to hear you, and we really don't even want to see you. We just want to make it seem like we're diverse. Because that's basically what's been going on. Me personally, I'm still involved. I'm still going to meetings, council meetings, democratic meetings for my county, for my state. I protest, I rally, I'm working, I'm doing what I have to do to mend the fences, build relationships, help bring everybody up and together, meet people where they're at, and make sure that I'm actively listening so I can really see what's going on in our city, in our state, in our neighborhoods, in our country, in our society. That's what it's going to take. Because the mess that we just saw last Tuesday is the result of us ignoring everybody and acting like we know what's best when we really don't. This past weekend, I actually took a 3-day self-care day. I really recommend self-care. Take time for self. Take a break. Cut your phone off. Get off of social media. Stop responding to people's text messages and phone calls. And I also will say this. You have a right to pick and choose who's going to be on your social media. So if you're dealing with people who are clearly closed-minded and ignorant, you have a right to say, hey, I don't want you on my social media page. I'm unfriending you. I'm unfollowing you. I'm unsubscribing. I'm blocking you. You also have a right to keep that person on your page. But self-care is important. Your mental health is important, okay? That's why I took a 3-day break this past weekend, because I was like about to explode and I was very upset. And even now, some of my so-called friends, I don't really see them as being friends anymore, because it's like, I don't see how you can see how involved I am with social justice and politics, and then turn around and not vote, and then turn around and make it seem like nothing happened. So for me, I have friends actually invite me to do something this past weekend, and I saw their message, I read it, and I was like, I'm not responding to this. I don't care about this. because you clearly didn't care about me. And then what's funny about it, these same people who claim to be your friends don't even check to see if you're how you're doing, you know, are you okay? Like, no, they're just talking about whatever. And that right there, like, was another, like, strike 2 for me. So I was like, you know, I don't have time for this. I'm not even finna associate myself with you at this point. Like, I need a break. Like, even after this 3-day self-care, I'm like, there's a lot of people where I'm literally, like, going over in my head, do I even want to continue a friendship with you? Like, it may be time for me to push you back to being an associate. Also, a lot of people found out for themselves after this election that many of their so-called friends and family members really don't care about them, really doesn't value your life. So people are in complete shock that their friends voted for Trump, or that they have some of these closed-minded views, and I'm just sitting here like, everybody that smiles in your face is not your friend and does not have your best interests. Knock knock, who's there? Reality. Anyways, this video is like 25 minutes. I'm done talking. I'm now moving forward with action plans and action steps, because that's like one of my biggest pet peeves. Actions speak louder than words. We can make videos, we can share Facebook memes, we can make statuses, but in the end, none of that shit really matters if you're not actually in the community, in the field, doing things at the end of the day. So, I'm going to leave this video with, let me know what you think about the election results, what's going on in our society in the comment box below. What are some of the action steps that you personally are going to take going forth after this election? What are your plans? What are you going to do? How are you going to change society for the better? Let me know. Anyways, actually, I'm going to leave with one of my favorite, oh my god, one of my favorite quotes. The future, one of my favorite quotes for Malcolm X, like all-time favorite quotes, because like, I think this really stands for me and everything I stand for, because I'm really big on action, because I feel like a lot of people, like, it's all talk, not enough action. So one of my favorite quotes from Malcolm X, I'm about to read it to you. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today, by the Honorable Malcolm X. So, what are you going to do today that's going to make life better for you and your family, for society? What are you going to do? What are going to be your actions? Leave those in the comment box below. Deuces.